Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get-Go Cafe and Market, where they have really good lunch stuff, don't they, Taylor?
Yeah, I love their salads. You can customize them any way you want. You build it yourself. It feels fancy, but...
Subs, burgers, wraps for people like me that have to watch it on the bread, all kinds of good stuff here. Let's talk a little about the Penguins. Let's face it, it looks like they could use some help.
Yeah, at forward especially. They really need a spark, and the obvious choice is Aston-Reese.
But remember that Mike Sullivan's word when he sent ZAR down was swagger.
Yeah,
Now, what are you seeing in terms of that? Because that's not something that's easily defined or a Corsi 4.
Yeah, they wanted him to build his confidence, and he's really showing that. And I think a big part of that is the physical side of the game. He hasn't shown any aversion to playing physical, and he's been taking a lot of hits too, which is good. Coming back from the injury. He'll take a big hit and he keeps going. He's not afraid.
Has he dropped the gloves?
Yeah, he's tried.
I was going to say, because the problem with Zach Aston-Reese dropping the gloves is that he has to find a willing participant.
Yeah,
and there aren't a lot of people that are willing to do that with him.
He tried with Nathan Gerby.
Oh, okay. And that didn't even that one didn't happen?
Gerby held on, but it wasn't much of a fight. And then another guy that could come up, Garrett Wilson. There's not much more he can do.
I mean, he's a known commodity. What is he? 27 something years old?
He's 27. He's played some NHL games before with Florida. He point per game pace. He also leads the team in goals. He's tied. Also very physical. Good net foot presence.
Maybe a spark guy. Pitt basketball. Are they selling any tickets before we get to the actual hoops? Or is anybody going to be going to these games?
Well, they're optimistic people are going to show up because they've sold 1,100 more season tickets than they have.
They say they have.
Well,
we're talking about the Pitt athletic department.
Well, but we're also talking about the visible exodus last season, so that's a very believable number when you consider they were playing in front of a library by the time they were playing UVA at the end of the last year. They had about 3,500, I think, was the number at the exhibition game against Pitt Johnstown, which, I mean, it's a meaningless game on a Thursday night, so you're not expecting a huge crowd. I'm thinking with the excitement of, new coach and everything, probably first couple games you'll see it, but then the non-conference schedule is going to wear on them. People aren't going to show up.
Jeff Capel, it's a two-way street because it's not just about people coming out to support the team. Jamie Dixon had a real bond with the Oakland Zoo. He had a real bond with the people who bought those suites up behind the benches. Kevin Stallings didn't. No. And it's one of the reasons that the Pitt community turned on him as fast as they did, and it's one of the reasons that he's unemployed. What can Capel, or has Capel, done to make sure... Look, even the zoo wasn't filled.
Right, and he has done a lot to try and, campus outreach, just sort of bring the fans back, get them back on the side. You talk about Jamie Dixon having that connection. A big part of that was... Jamie Dixon was there when the zoo was established as an assistant under Hal and when the Peterson Center got built. So he was already there. So it was like he was part and parcel of it.
And in fairness, Steve Peterson deserves credit for that as well. He was the one that designed the place to have a zoo.
Right, and so Jeff Capel now is trying to do what Kevin Stallings was really the first other coach that has had to try and be an outsider coming into it. Capel is at least trying to do the outreach things that I don't think Stallings was 100% into doing.
He wasn't into anything.
Yeah,
except watching his son play at PNC Park. He wasn't into anything.
That was probably now what he's doing a lot more of too.
The Penguins could use some speed, some fire, some energy, and this is going to apply all the way through the season. Are there any guys that fit that mold right now in Wilkes-Barre who might be able to, even if it's not soon, help out?
Yeah, I mean, Teddy Bluger is a guy who...
Whoa, speed?
Yeah, his skating was a problem in the past.
Yeah?
I've talked to him, that's been his focus every summer, and it's really not a weakness anymore.
See, I didn't think so. In training camp and in preseason, it's not so much that he's like some straight line burner, but what it looks like he's gotten better at, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the side-to-side, the shiftiness stuff. He's good in tight quarters.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. And even he's created some breakaway chances for himself, too. He did have a breakaway goal in the preseason. And then another guy, Adam Johnson. I mean, he has to be one of the fastest guy in the organization. He's not strong though, which is a problem. He left college a year early, and that extra year can really be helpful in guys getting stronger. He didn't play his senior year, and he's so skinny.
He's so light.
And I know that's his focus over the off season too. You know, putting on strength.
But how do you do that? If
I don't know. I could take him out to eat if he also put on weight. No, but I
thought you were about to say you could take him in a fight.
No, well, I don't know. Maybe that too. But he's a really fast guy. He's just not very strong. He's very skilled though. I mean,
that's where you worry about him in the NHL levels. The same way you worry about Jake Gensel is just for their well-being, because when somebody does make square contact with them, they're doomed.
Yeah, he gets knocked off the puck pretty easily if they can get near him. The thing is, he sets himself apart from other guys.
Thomas DePauli?
He's one of the fastest guys on the ice too. He's I guess kind of to get off to a slow start. He hasn't scored.
No, there's not much in the way of points.
No. I mean, he's looked kind of reckless at times. Like, he has a lot of speed and he'll just go crashing into the net. But I mean, he's such a good playmaker, and he's had a lot of like really fancy like moves, like shots on net.
I remember saying this to you at one point in training camp. He's a player who thinks he can get away with anything on the ice.
Yeah, the moves he's tried, like spinoramas.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I mean, they're not going in, but like they look pretty cool.
Pitt football, from that to this, how did it happen?
I mean,
like this,
a lot of it I think has to do with that team taking their lumps early on. I mean, Penn State game, I still say, is sort of just with the weather and everything, a lot of weird things. But they went down and got smacked around by UCF. And frankly, the schedule got a little easier when they got into conference play. But they have made the plays they needed to against Syracuse, against Duke down the stretch that, were key things they just weren't doing in the first month. And, give credit to the players for sort of sticking with it and not going in the tank when they were 2-3.
You would think that the defense stands out in that regard more than anything. I know they've gotten the running game going. They still haven't gotten the passing game going, but the defense was the thing that really stood out so badly, whether it was rain or not, in the UCF and the Penn State games, where you just said, this just looks no different than what we'd seen before under Narduzzi. Something changed there. Did he become more flexible schematically? Did he get his corners some support?
There was definitely a little bit of that, but I mean, there's also just a performance element. And, you sort of have rolled your eyes in the past when they talk about, if they get a pass rush, it makes things easier on the defensive backs, that sort of thing. But now that the numbers are starting to bear that out, the last 3 games, they have 10 sacks. They've been making life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. Their first 5 games against FBS teams, they only had 6 sacks across 5 games. So you're really starting to see the performance match up, and what they predicted would happen is actually happening.
Yeah, and to clarify, the reason that I would roll my eyes at that is because he would cite that only as opposed to just part of the equation. Pass rush is obviously a big part of getting coverage, because you're rushing the guy, but at the same time, he had to make adjustments in the back. He couldn't just keep crossing his fingers and hoping that the next Darrell Revis was under his watch.
And the big thing with that, and you had the one piece of flexibility you've really seen, he's been much more comfortable this season, sort of living in the nickel against teams that are dictating that. When Duke comes out with 5 wide receivers, in the past, he always would want to get back to his base defense when situations
stop the run, stop the run.
And maybe it's in a backhanded way, partly because Quentin Wirginis' injury, he loses his best middle linebacker there, that maybe he's just getting his best players on the field happen to be now, get 2 linebackers and the defensive backs out there.